Hi beautiful souls, it's Tan back here on this Astrology, Human Design and Gene Keys channel with you, and today we're going to be looking at Human Design Gate 57, Gene Key 57, and that is in correspondence with the Zodiac Degrees of Libra. From 1507 degrees to 2045 degrees of Libra, and that is located in the spleen, in Human Design Body Graph, which is the center of intuition, health, and knowing what's good and not good for you. Okay, so the vision key bird spirit of this archetype is the Blackbird. And if you haven't seen my introduction video of this particular series, I highly recommend that you check that video out first. So I'll post a link to that up above in the description box below, so you can kind of see the approach that I'm coming from with this series, and you can kind of come back and watch this video. Okay, so the 57th gene key in Human Design Gate moves from the shadow frequency of unease to the gift of intuition to the city of clarity, the art of softness. The fear animal is the toad, the life key animal is the bat, and the vision key bird spirit is the blackbird. In the 64 I-Ching hexagram, this hexagram is wind over wind, the gentle, the subtle yet penetrating spirals of life. A clear mind moves through any obstacle. In the 64 genetic codon, this codon is part of the ring of matter and is associated with the amino acid alanine. The programming partner of this archetype is Gene Key Human Design Gate 51, which I just recently made a video of it last week, and that's the Aries archetype. The programming partner is the opposite point in the zodiac wheel and the I-Ching hexagram of this archetype, and it offers a balancing complementary opposite energy to it. In human design, this particular gate is forming several channels. Channel 1057, which is called the channel of perfected form, also called the channel of self-awareness. It forms a channel with the 34, called the channel of power, and forms a channel with the 2057, which is called the channel of awareness or the brainwave. So let's get started by looking deeper into the blackbird traits. So the blackbird is considered to be a bird that is a symbol of power, mystery, magic. It's a carrier of magical knowledge, witchcraft, and intuitive abilities. Some people say that listening to the blackbird song helps a shaman travel to different spiritual realms. So there's this ability of this energy, to be able to move beyond worlds and retain clarity. They can say like it's the medicine of the blackbird. It's also associated with omens and can reveal to you fears that are ruling your life when they show up in your life. The bright yellow bill and the yellowness around the eyes of the blackbird, which I think is super cute and really a beautiful bird to watch. It only happens in the males, and scientific studies have shown that the reason why it's that color, the brighter the yellow of the blackbird, it means that the males have fewer parasites and diseases and are likely to be able to devote enough carotenoids into those areas. So it means that that particular bird would have a better immune system. So their appearance is going to be able to attract more mates, because the females are going to feel that, are going to have this sense that their babies are going to be stronger if they could choose a stronger mate. So it's an update on the male health. They can use their beautiful songs to express their different needs. The different calls of a blackbird has different meanings, and they also have different sounds that they make to warn off different types of predators. Is a blackbird symbol a symbol of a bad omen? This can be, we can say that partially it is, because the blackbird can also be interpreted as giving us omens for our own survival. Female blackbirds are especially fierce also in the spring, when they compete and fight with each other for good nesting territory, and of course the males are also quite competitive and protects their territory by chasing away other males. I also found it interesting, they said that the blackbirds like to sing mostly after the rain, which I feel is a symbol of clarity. Clarity after the rain, sunshine after the rain. They also have a very interesting feeding pattern, which they do it closer to the daybreak, when the predators are much more diminished because the conditions are too bright for owls but too dark for sparrowhawks. So it gives the blackbird a brief window of opportunity to exploit a food source when the conditions are better for them. So if you have this archetype in your human design, gene keys, or astrology, I have this in my sidereal human design as my Pluto, and in true sidereal cosmic human design as my evolution. So both are considered a challenge for me. I would consider like having a Pluto gate, you know, and a conscious earth, so your evolution and the gene keys, both of them to be some of the most challenging energies here. So this is a really challenge for me, and I may include some of my own experiences with it in this video, maybe if we have time. If you have this archetype, you can be considered as somebody who has somewhat of a hypnotic and even magical influence on others with regards to how much you can see through them. How you have this energy that penetrates into the energy or the auras of other people and gets to their core. You can also penetrate into the core of situations and moments in a way that is gentle and soft, so it kind of sends shivers down people's spine with regards to your energy, the things that you say, things that you do. You have intuitive abilities, which is coming from being in the body, being in the now, and listening to the voices, the hunches of your body and what it's telling you about particular situations or people. Your hunches are probably always spot on. You may also be somebody who is concerned about your health and your immune system and takes good care of that. You may have a gift for the occult in order to gain intuitive clarity. So an example is using tarot cards to help you gain clarity over certain situations. You may be considered as somebody who can be, when this is operating at a higher frequency, very gentle, very soft with your voice, especially the voice. This is an auditory gate. And also maybe it's with your hands, maybe it's with the way that you touch people. Maybe you're able to do things that requires details of the hands and the softness and gentleness of the hands. Like imagine somebody who likes to do arts and crafts and sew things and has to do things very, small with their hands. You can be somebody who is acoustically sensitive to music, so the music has to be in harmony in order for you to listen to it. You may hear things at night when you're sleeping much more sensitively than other people can, and so you need to be able to have quiet when you really want to be able to sleep. And other people's tone of voices can really affect you, and you may choose to not talk to or listen to people that have a voice that doesn't really sound harmonious for you. So let's look at the shadow frequency of this archetype that is called unease. So the ultimate, we can say, foundation or themes behind the gene key in human design gate 57 is going to be sound waves. Like how I said, the general theme of the 51 is adaptation to shock. The 57 is about frequency, sound waves, especially how that penetrates into our body, because sound, things that we hear, they are energy frequencies and they're waves, right? If you think about how the programming partner is the 51st gene key, and that's thunder over thunder, think about the sound of thunder and how thunder shocks the gentleness of the 57, that gentle wind. So therefore, the 57 is the human fear at the shadow frequency, the fear of not knowing what's coming next. You don't know when the thunder is going to strike. You don't know when the cold wind is going to come and hit your body. You don't know what's going to come in the wind. Both thunder and wind are quite unpredictable forces of nature, but both of them can either be awakening to you, refreshing to you, or they can both be chilly, cold, scary, and shock you, your system. You don't know which one it is. The fear of the 57 is rooted in the fear of not knowing what's coming in the future. You can see how the I-Ching, the forces of nature, connects to this archetype, each archetype actually in the gene keys. This archetype of the 57 has me thinking a lot of like what it feels like when you're watching a horror film or horror movie. I hate horror movies. I never watch them when I'm alone. I can watch them if I am going to be, sleeping with my boyfriend that night, but when I'm like sleeping alone for whatever the reason is, when I was younger or whatever. But I don't watch horror movies because they really just, the images just stick in my mind, the feeling, it's just, the 57th gate in human design is considered to be one of the first, or maybe the first gate that was developed in the human body since we were cavemen, because it has a lot to do with being able to hear danger that's coming your way and run, flee from that danger before it actually gets close enough to hurt you. So being able to hear a dangerous animal coming from far away and then running away from that, which is a little bit different from the 63rd gene key that we talked about, how the 63rd gene key is about planning and strategy for protection from danger. 57 doesn't do that. It doesn't plan or strategize. It is how the intuition picks up danger or no danger, and then the instinct of the body moves without thought in order to keep you safe from that danger. Or maybe to fight, to kick, to fight that danger if you could fight it off, or run, one of those things. So we can see how in the past, the feeling of unease, hearing danger, that's unease. That feeling of unease was there to protect us and to help us survive. But what happens with unease in the modern day then, when that kind of life or death survival is no longer necessary? You see how unease clears itself once we make the right intuitive move, the move where the intuition aligns with our body, running away or fighting that animal or whatever it is that we need to do at that moment. When it is the right intuitive action, it clears the unease. But nowadays, the human brain has become so developed that we allow unease to continue to stay in the body because our mind makes up, conceptualizes and makes up excuses to not listen to that intuition. So let's say that you are in a relationship, okay, and your body is sending you a signal that this partner is not right for you, or they are a little bit toxic, or there's just something off about them, and you don't quite feel so safe with this partner. But your mind comes in, right? Because the mind in the modern day is very developed, and it says, but I don't want to be alone. But I'm now 30 years old, and I need to be able to get married and have kids. It's the timing here is here for me. And I may not be able to find anybody else if I leave this partner. So the unease was there. The mind is trying to cope with the unease because there's a fear of change, and there's money, relationships, fitting in, belonging are the things that the mind wants to cling on to. So what ends up happening is that every day you are with this person, you are continuously feeling unease because the intuition continues to try to tell you to get out of the situation. Every day the danger is here. It's telling you that it's not right for you, for your body, it's not comfortable. But yet the mind is saying something and we're not making a change, we're not doing anything about it, and so the unease still exists. And it can give you a lot of anxieties with this particular placement. And the reason why, the intuition of the 57, which there's lots of great intuitive potentials here, why it may be distorted in the gene keys, it actually talks about this happening since you were in your mother's womb, and the fear frequency of your mother, how that is transferred directly into your body ever since you were in the womb. Okay, let me give you an example of my experience with this and my mother. I was not born of a natural birth with my parents. They were trying to have a baby for 5 years, but they couldn't. So they decided to go for IVF. So I'm an IVF baby, in vitro fertilization. I'm not natural birth fertilization. And they tried IVF for many times, and eventually it worked. So the moment that it worked and I came into my mother's womb, both my parents were very cautious about how they couldn't lose this child. So they worried a lot about, you know, my death and when they could lose me, not knowing when they would lose me. And they did a lot to cope with that situation, to the point where I felt that their mind was probably overruling a lot of the gentleness or the softness, that the intuition that they could have there. And it was very much about strategy, planning the mind. For example, my dad, every morning for 9 months, he makes my mom the same breakfast, nutritional breakfast, bananas and eggs and, you know, milk, and everything was nutritious, to make sure that the baby was going to be healthy enough and they were not going to lose me. That's one thing. My mom couldn't sit in a car, and she couldn't drive either, because she had what was like a weaker or softer, or, you know, her uterus walls where she was holding me, they were fragile. Yes, so she couldn't do anything that would risk losing me. And, you know, sometimes in Asia you would have what is called a squatting toilet. So she couldn't use a squatting toilet either. She could only use the sitting kind of toilet. During the last few months of the pregnancy, or the first few months of the pregnancy, she couldn't sneeze even, because that, just the sneezing act itself, could give her a miscarriage. So you can see the overwhelming amount of fears that my parents had while they were pregnant with me, and how they had to be so gentle, but from the mind, you know, kind of like that. So that's just my example of this here. So what this ends up doing is, it ends up in the shadow frequency can make you someone who's very hesitant of things in your life, because the intuition is overpowered by the mind. So when every cell in your body knows that something is right or wrong for you, it knows the truth of the moment for you, the mind immediately comes in and imposes doubts and anxiety and opinions, and thereby making your true perceptions of certain situations and people completely powerless. Your intuition is your first brain. The other symptom that we can have in the shadow of this is going to be what is called like rushing to make quick decisions. So not really waiting for the intuition to kick in, but making decisions from the mind, because sometimes waiting for your intuition to kick in can take a while. It can take longer, and we are pressured in this, you know, society of the hustle and bustle to make quick decisions. It can also be a decision that is made from the fear of knowing what your intuition would actually tell you, and how your intuition may interfere with other motivations that you have from the mind with regards to money, you know, fitting in, wanting to not make certain changes and things like that. So it's a decision, ultimately it's a decision made from fear. However, even if you make these quick decisions in your life and they lead to some kind of turmoil or turbulence in your life, it is part of your awakening process, because you'll be shocked, and then we have your programming partner, the 51st gene key, and that shock that results in you not listening to your intuition will cause you to awaken. So let's look at the gift frequency of this archetype, which is called intuition. So, you know, in the gene keys they talk about the mother's frequency in the child's womb, right? There's 3 trimesters to a pregnancy period. In the first trimester, the mother's frequency will impact the first developmental cycle of a child. So that's from 1 to 7 years old, when you were developing your physical body. The second trimester, the mother's frequency will impact the child's second developmental cycle, which is the emotional developmental stage from 7 to 14 years old. The third trimester of the mother's pregnancy, that frequency that she was sending to you is going to affect the child's third developmental cycle, which is when they are 14 to 21 years old, and that's the mental development. So that is not to say, however, that you are going to be a victim to your mother's frequency, but it does tell us, it does give you a window, an opportunity to address the issues that may come up in these 3 developmental cycles. So it does give your mother, or if you are the mother, the ability to assess when my child was 1 to 7 years old, what are the issues that's coming up there? It's probably coming from the frequency of the mother during the first trimester, and how can we work through those issues, things like that, as a way of offering, love and healing to the child. Because in order to get to a state of intuitive clarity, your fears, your conditioned fears, they have to be removed from the systems of your body. As long as the imprinted fears are still rooted in your body, they will interfere with your real knowing in the moment, in the present moment, your real intuition. And to be able to get rid of these fears, it is not a battle, it's not a war. You don't fight it off. Remember, this gene key is the art of gentleness and softness. So to be able to embrace your fears with love, to be able to take your shadows and take that dragon, make friends with the dragon, ride the dragon, rather than trying to fight the dragon off, is going to be a way of handling the conditioned fears that are in the actual system of your body. When your body is still operating on its fears, frequency of the fears, it is not sensitive to the now, the present moment, because it's always going to be fearing the future, the unknown in the future. So it can never really be present. So therefore it has to be taken out of your system first. So taking a walk in nature is also another really good technique for this, because the way that nature communicates with us is through our intuition. The way that we feel when we're in nature, that is our sensitive intuitiveness of the body, of being in the now, how it is receiving nature. That is us communicating our intuitions with nature. So a developed sixth sense will help you to get in touch with and feel nature and the universe. When your intuition is used to make certain decisions in your life, you feel more integrated in life, and you'll know that your intuition is kicking in certain situations, because your body's going to tell you something about people or events or situations that won't cause you paranoia. A feeling of paranoia is caused by fears, and paranoia is basically anxiety. Intuition never makes you anxious. It never gives you that paranoia. Even if your intuition is telling you that a certain person is toxic or not right for you, it will still feel aligned with your path. You'll still feel like, oh, but the universe is going to support me anyways. But this is going to be my path to cut this person out of my life. Intuition always is a gentle, soft, gentle wind, and it doesn't feel bad, you can say. Making decisions based on correct intuition is going to bring you to more integration in life. So being in relationships with real love and softness, seeing the path of your life, your destiny with much more clarity. It almost feels like the universe begins to support you. Clairaudience is a gift of this particular archetype. So being able to hear sounds, being very sensitive to sounds, sometimes hearing voices or hearing spirits that other people can't hear. And another good practice for this archetype is going to be to be alone in like a park or just in nature and close your eyes and listen to the voices around you. What can you hear? So that's another way of working with this energy. Can you hear the birds chirping? Or can you hear the wind? Can you hear the leaves blowing across the trees or blowing on the grass? What do you hear? Can you hear a dog barking off in the distance? I can hear a bird right now. With the gift of this archetype, your sensitivity can become so heightened when you work with your intuition that you become as sensitive and as clean as you were when you were in your mother's womb. And therefore, you're going to be very sensitive in being able to penetrate into other people's auras and energies and kind of pick up their energy there. But it never makes you feel paranoid. Even if you penetrate into somebody who has darker or fears that remains unresolved, it doesn't strike you as anxiety or fears within your body. It just feels like, oh, this is what this person is going through. This is aligned with the universe. I'm feeling it. Because you are no longer separated from life and your environment. You are one and unified. And so it feels like it's going to be okay. So at the city frequency, or the highest destiny of this archetype, you're actually somebody who can use clairaudient to help you intuit the future, in whichever way you want to interpret that. And knowing the future actually relaxes you. Even if understanding what's going to happen in the future is not, say, for your own, what you were expecting, or for your own benefit, it's not what you wanted, it can still relax you. You still feel like it's going to be okay. At this level, it is still possible to become addicted to the power that you get from being able to penetrate in and read other people's aura. And the fear is actually coming here from when you know that when you can fully penetrate into another person's aura, if you continue to keep doing it without stopping, you will fully merge with the other. And when you fully merge with the other, there is no more individual power. Your power also becomes theirs, and you have shared power. And that can sometimes bring certain fears. But then again, that doesn't have to happen either, because if the 51st gene key for you is also becoming awakened, you will realize that you will see reality with clarity, and all the fears within you are gone forever. You have no fears. And when you have no fears, you realize that this merging, this penetration of your auras with another, what it ends up actually doing is that it makes you more unified. And in that unification, there is no death, there is no end. Therefore, there is no fear. The art of softness with this archetype is about being like water or being like wind, because when you allow yourself to be like that, when you approach people or situations in your life with so much softness, you can penetrate into everything. Think about how wind gets through everything. It's coming in through my windows right now even. The air outside is making this room cold right now. Even with insulation, it's still cold and we have to heat up the room. Think about how water, can go in through, seep in through the walls, the floors, small holes. You can have air or water coming through it because it's so soft. Ultimately, you can become the tuning fork for the divine presence. People that sit within your aura, if you're operating at the city frequency, can help them to reach higher states of consciousness very rapidly just by being in your aura. And once you approach things in your life with this softness, everything reveals itself to you eventually. If you touch an animal, a bird, a cat, with gentleness and softness, they just unfurl in front of you. It's the same with people. When you handle people with so much softness and gentleness and sweetness, they just reveal themselves to you. And you can probably experience that as well. People just kind of tell you stuff that they've never told anyone before. Your destiny begins to reveal itself to you. Truth, your truth, a deeper meaning behind ideas and certain concepts and everything reveals itself to you when you approach life with softness. So if you guys have been keeping in touch with, human design, you'll know that the year 2027 is quite an interesting year because it begins a new incarnation cross cycle, a new era that's going to be happening for the next 400 years. And it's going to be the era of collectively the cross of the sleeping phoenix and the cross of penetration, both together. And of course, the cross of penetration has gate 51 and 57 as part of that incarnation cross. So besides from 2027 being the era of collective awakening, I also feel it's going to be an era of collectively for us having much more clarity and learning to use more of our intuition rather than our mind, which we had to use a lot in the last 400 years. So that's going to be my take on this particular archetype. If you have this, do comment below and let us know what your experiences have been. And don't forget to also check out Gene Key and Human Design Gate 51, which is your programming partner. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button below if you haven't subscribed. If you already did, thank you very much for coming along. I do readings, human design, astrology, gene keys combined. You can check out that information on my website. And if you'd like to connect more with me and other human design, astrology, gene key enthusiasts, do join us on our online Discord platform. Links in the description box below. So have a beautiful day, beautiful souls. Bye.